What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo. Once again, we're going to be talking about what's next with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The first thing that I want to mention is your fellow nerds were right, as we are 100% all the time. Dave never has to reel us in about anything. We were right if you pay attention and you watched our Theory Palooza and our trailer breakdown on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We pointed out that some of those scenes that we saw were definitely Madripoor, and of course it was confirmed that we went to Madripoor. This episode was amazing, as all of these have been so far, and we got a lot in this. A lot of stuff happened. In fact, we also got to see the Winter Soldier kind of back in form in a way, and it kind of makes me wonder if he's ever going to like fully shake this image that he's got, this idea that he's this killer. One thing that I noticed about this episode and about Bucky particularly is he seems to be well known in Madripoor. It seems like he's been there before. So
get out of my lab.
Hey, you know who he is, right? This is Baron Zemo. I know you've heard of him too, right? You seem like a pretty smart guy, so you better become conversational real quick.
it makes me wonder if Hydra has ordered him to go there before, and what does this mean for future episodes? How well is he known in other parts of the world? Are we going to, for instance, are we going to find out that he has hunted people down in Latveria? We haven't seen that yet.
And while we are on the subject of Baron Zemo, I just want to say that we just found out, I think earlier today, that he has been added to season 933 of Dancing with the Stars.
And I think Daniel Bruhl really commands the screen when he's on. So when Zemo's in there, the focus is on him. I think he does a great job. But here's another theory that was correct, breaking Zemo out. We knew that was going to happen. We saw him running around in the previews. And what we thought was a team with him was actually our team. It's our guys who broke him out.
Lockdown procedures would have to be initiated. With all those bodies flying around left and right, wouldn't be hard to slip down a hallway or two.
And he had several times to escape when he was, during the battle, when they started shooting at him in the alley, and he went out the other way behind them. And then later on, after he blew up that gas line, he could have drove away then as well, but he didn't. He stayed with them, which makes me think what's next for Zemo is that he isn't going to be just a straight up villain. He's going to be more like Loki. He's going to be more like, if it serves his needs, he'll work with you. If not, he'll work against you. Like Bucky said, he's got a code. And if you're going to work towards the same goal, he's going to work with you.
Another thing that we discovered about Zemo, which I think is particularly interesting, is he in fact also has a superpower. We found out that he's got the same superpowers as Batman. He is excessively rich.
So all this time you've been rich?
I'm a baron's son. My family was royalty until your friends destroyed my country.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
Yeah, Dave is absolutely right about Zemo. He is the ends justify the means, and he is going to work with anyone to get that done. He even said, I've not given up my goal of getting rid of all superhumans. And he even talks about it. Who wants to live in a world with the Avengers? What they've done, what they did to my country and all this stuff. So he is going to do whatever it takes. And if that means forming the Thunderbolts and working with superpowered beings later on, I think he may do it. And I think he is committed fully to that goal of stopping super beings and coming in existence. And he's really going to be messed up when mutants are introduced. What's he going to do then? He is really going to fly off the handle.
Another thing about Zemo is he killed Nagel in that scene. And to me, it was obvious why. I thought he was doing it for no more super soldiers.
Now what?
Guys, we're seriously out of time here.
No!
What did you do?
I think Keith has a different view on that. What do you think, Keith?
I definitely thought the timing was a little bit odd with when he did it. Now, I knew he was probably want him out of the way, but the fact as soon as Sharon Carter came into that lab is when he did it. I think that they both know something about Sharon Carter that they're not letting on, that they don't want Sam and Bucky to find out. And I think we're going to find that played out through the rest of the season because there's a lot going on with Sharon Carter. We know that supposedly she was exiled or she's on the run, but I think that's a cover. I do think she is working undercover for somebody, and I do think that's going to end up to be Nick Fury because he is already starting to put things together. He may be out in space, but he still has all of his people on the ground. And the fact that Secret Invasion is coming, Nick Fury knew about the Secret Invasion well before anyone else, and he had people out there kind of investigating. And I think this is going to turn out to be Sharon Carter investigating a lead that Fury has about maybe Skrulls in Madripoor. And she may be working for the power broker. I don't think she is the power broker, but I do think she might be working for him to see where that gets her. And I think at some point we are going to get that magical scene. In the comics, it was Elektra, and we see her turn into a Skrull. I do think we are going to see somebody die and turn into a Skrull. Once again, I don't think it's going to be in Falcon and the Winter Soldier because we only have 3 episodes left and they have a lot of story to tell. But I do think this is going to happen and we will find out Sharon Carter is working for Nick Fury.
I'm not even going to reel that in. That sounds very feasible. And a couple more things about Sharon. And I don't know if this is a difference in her character because she's been away and she's been exiled for so long, but she's definitely jaded. Does that mean she's a Skrull? Who knows? She says that superheroes are bullshit. And when she does the search for Nagel, she finds him like that. So my original thought for that was like, is she the power broker? It's just a question I have out there. Not even everybody in these 3 nerds on this channel have that same belief.
A bunch of nerds.
And she is also really good at providing weapons. Just like in Civil War, she gives everybody their weapons back. And then, of course, when she takes them back to her apartment and they go out, she's like, here, I got some guns for you. Go ahead and take them.
I'm definitely going to be the most boring as far as Sharon Carter goes. I don't have a whole lot in the way of, cool ideas like what Dave and Keith think. Literally, I'm thinking that the reason why she's coming off as so jaded the way that, Dave said, honestly, I have a feeling it's because she's been scorned, she's been burned. It's been like 5+ years that she's been blacklisted by the US government, by the CIA, by SHIELD, by whatever agency she was working for, to the point where when Sam says,
all right, a deal then. You help us out, and I get your name cleared.
it's almost like she doesn't even really care. The reason why I'm suspect of her is she's living in Hightown, which we find out in the beginning of this episode that that's kind of something that it's a little difficult to attain. But she's living in Hightown. She's got a pretty good job. If she is not the power broker, like Dave might, is questioning, then perhaps she knows the power broker or she works for him in some way. All I know is she made a phone call towards the end of the episode, and it has me wondering, where are her alliances?
Also in this episode, we see that Carly is not working with the power broker, but in fact, he is chasing her. I mean, I guess we saw that on last episode, but they actually mention that he's coming after her, where she says he's going to actually have to come to us now because she believes that that is all the serum that there is. But I like the depth of this character. That when she steals the 6 months of supplies for the people, you can understand where she's coming from. You can kind of get behind her. The way she's doing things is not, optimal, but she has a reason, just like Thanos. She has a reason to do what she's doing, and she's doing it.
I definitely agree with you, Dave. I like the depth to her character. Marvel is doing pretty good lately at fleshing out their villains. They weren't great at it in the beginning with Ironmonger, probably not the greatest fleshing out of a villain. I'm evil for the sake of evilness, but this was pretty good. I like the way that they're fleshing Carly out. I like her motivations. I like that they almost set it up in a way with Torres. When he mentions to Sam, I can see why some people would get behind that kind of idea. However, I will say that I feel like they didn't give it enough time. once again, I want to mention, I wish there was more than 6 episodes. I wish that they had given it more time, because it seemed, in my opinion, like it was a bit of a jerk in that direction, trying to get her to where they want her to be, where she's killing people, and even her own team members are saying, hey, there were still people in there. That's not cool.
Put your seatbelt on. Now.
There were still people in there.
This is the only language these people understand.
It's got me wondering, is this a result of her ideals, or is this the super soldier serum?
And kind of going back to what Dave said a minute ago, Carly does think she has all of the super soldier serum because she knows that Dr. Nagel is dead. And it's interesting because in the comics, he went by the name Dr. Reinstein for a while. And where have we seen Dr. Reinstein before? He was working for the Weapons Plus program, who was working for the Department of Defense. Who would have known about the Weapon Plus program and working with the Department of Defense than a CIA agent like Sharon Carter? So both of them being on Madripoor at the same time makes me really think that Sharon Carter's undercover work is working for the power broker. And I think we're going to see that play out in the next 3 episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I do think, once again, it is all a cover for her work with Nick Fury.
I'm glad that Keith brought up the power broker and Dr. Nagel, because just as the MCU is prone to do, we get a little bit of minor changes to their characters in the show as opposed to their characterizations in the comics. So we know that Dr. Nagel has been around, at least in the comics, since World War II. He was part of the original Project Rebirth, and he was directly related to Isaiah Bradley, and also to Josiah Bradley, who has not yet appeared in this show, but who knows, maybe that will be what's next. It seems that they've switched around his character a little bit for the purposes of this show, where he was still related to Isaiah Bradley, and so insofar as he took his blood, he mentions that he doesn't mention him by name, but we know that he's talking about Isaiah because he mentions that he was one of the successful recipients of powers from the super soldier serum.
I was brought into Hydra's Winter Soldier program to pick up their work after the 5 failed test subjects in Siberia. When Hydra fell, I was recruited by the CIA. They had blood samples from an American test subject with semi-stable traces of serum in his system. After much labor, I was able to isolate the necessary compounds in his blood. I was a god.
Now, the other change that we notice that they've made is with the power broker specifically. And this is where I'm going to be getting more into a little bit of what I think is next. We find out that the power broker, at least in the MCU, isn't so much a businessman as much. They don't seem to really emphasize that that he, or possibly she, if we want to go with what Dave's question is leading us down, he doesn't seem to be a businessman so much as he seems to be more of a governor of Madripoor.
A power broker, really? Every kingdom needs its king. Let's just pray we stay under his radar.
Do you know him?
Only by reputation. In Madripoor, he's judge, jury, and executioner.
Nothing gets done without him. In fact, the super soldier serum, which was what put the power broker and Power Broker Inc. into business, you should watch our video on that for a little bit more information. But the super soldier serum was almost an afterthought in the MCU, where the power broker seems to have seen some sort of financial or power-based advantage in being the person who could distribute it or could sell it. And it doesn't seem as though that was the primary business opportunity or the primary thing that the power broker dealt in. So what I think is going to be next, as far as the power broker goes, we've theorized in some of our previous videos that John Walker would have to get his powers from the power broker, as he does in the comics. Now I'm starting to wonder if that's actually going to be the case. I'm wondering if there's going to be any further interaction with the power broker. Where is this guy going to come in to play in future episodes? Because I'm thinking that John Walker is now going to be either stealing his powers from the Flag Smashers by stealing the formula from them, or possibly he's going to work with the power broker to get it back.
I'm glad you bring up John Walker, because I'm watching the show. I know he wasn't on it very long, but he did seem to have a temper. Now, am I thinking that he's got a temper just because he's the new Captain America, and I know a little about him from the comics? But if Steve Rogers acted this way, would I expect that? So I don't know. Maybe I'm a little tainted towards him. But that makes me think of a conversation that Bucky had during the show with Sam about the shield. He said he's not going to let, John Walker is not the guy to carry the mantle of Captain America. And before he lets Sam destroy the shield, he's going to make sure that he gets his hands on it. Is that a foreshadow? Is that a what's next for Bucky? Is he going to become the actual Captain America before the end of the show? I don't know. But is that his course in the MCU? I mean, it happened in the comics. Is it going to happen here? And one more thing about Bucky before I sign off is that I didn't see the Wakanda angle when they were walking up at the end of the show and he found the bead and he runs into AO in the alleyway. Now, I know they've mentioned White Wolf. Does that give him some sort of a hierarchy in Wakanda? I don't know. But obviously, I did not see that Wakanda angle coming. I'm excited to see where that goes. I don't have a prediction for it, but I like that they worked it in.
And while our heroes and Zemo were visiting Lowtown, we did see they kind of lingered on a sign for the Princess Bar, which those of you who are in the know that this was one of Lowtown's seedier joints that was often visited by Wolverine when he was doing business in Madripoor as Patch. And as we talked about in our Theory Palooza, I didn't think we would see Wolverine, but I figured we'd get a mention, and this seems like it's that mention of kind of his history. But just because we saw the bar, does that mean that we're going to see Wolverine showing up in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? 100% yes. Count on it. We are getting Wolverine in this season of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Full costume, everything. It's going to be amazing. Dave, do you got anything on that?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big fish. Reeling that in.
Now, finally, we want to talk about the mystery character that was teased for episode 5 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier by the show's main writer, Malcolm Spellman. He said that the character is a grounded character, and he would love to see this character team up with Thor. So here we go again. We got this cameo, we got this character, we got this thing coming up. So I had 3 thoughts on this. The first one being, maybe he's talking about Eli Bradley as Patriot. Something happens, his father has to give him a blood transfusion, and he becomes the Patriot during the season. Second, Shang-Chi. He's pretty grounded. I would love to see him work with Thor, but I think those two are probably pretty unlikely. And the third one that I think is probably what I'm going to put my money on as being true is Jolt. She was part of the Thunderbolts. She got her powers by Arnim Zola. And as you know, I am a firm believer that Arnim Zola is going to show up either as the power broker or working for the power broker in some capacity to get these superhumans created. But I think the key in all of this is he said she was grounded, which hints at her powers with electricity. So I do think we are going to see Jolt show up in episode 5 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I can't wait to see it because she has been one of my favorite characters since she debuted in the Thunderbolts.
And obviously, we know that Jolt is probably going to receive her powers from an Infinity Stone in the MCU. 100% confirmed. Don't bother reeling it in.
I'm sorry, Doug. I gotta reel that in. I'm not even gonna make the motion. It's reeled in.
Well, fellow nerds, that's what we think is coming up next for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But we want to know what you guys think. Leave it down in the comments below, and we look forward to seeing you on our next video here on Not Your Status Quo.